In the stark fluorescent light of Memorial Hospital's third floor, 14-year-old Emma collapsed suddenly, her body seizing on the cold tile floor. Nurses rushed toward her, their voices rising in panic as they called for a doctor. But it was Mike Collins, the janitor pushing his cleaning cart down the hallway, who moved with unexpected purpose. He gently turned Emma onto her side, placed a folded towel beneath her head, and stabilized her with practiced hands that seemed to know exactly what to do. The medical staff watched in stunned silence as the seizure subsided under his care. From the shadows of the corridor, a woman in an expensive suit observed with widening eyes, her composed expression cracking as she witnessed this small man in maintenance blues save her daughter. "Thank you, but who are you?" the hospital director finally asked, breaking the silence. "Just the janitor, sir," Mike answered quietly, unaware that the woman watching from the distance was Alexandra Hayes, chairwoman of Hayes Pharmaceuticals and the hospital's largest donor. The morning sun filtered through thin curtains in Mike's modest apartment on the outskirts of Boston. At 40, his face carried the gentle weathering of someone who had endured quiet storms. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, flipping pancakes shaped like dinosaurs while simultaneously checking Lily's backpack for her homework and medication. 10-year-old Lily sat at their small kitchen table, her legs swinging as she explained her science project with animated gestures. The epilepsy that occasionally seized her small body never seemed to diminish her spirit. Mike listened intently, his eyes crinkling with pride despite the dark circles beneath them from another night of interrupted sleep. "Daddy, you forgot your lunch again," Lily said, pointing to the brown paper bag on the counter. The simple statement carried the weight of their relationship. She took care of him as much as he cared for her. 5 years earlier, Mike had been Dr. Michael Collins, a promising medical resident with glowing recommendations. Then his wife Sarah's car accident changed everything. With a newly diagnosed epileptic daughter needing constant supervision and no family support, Mike had made his choice without hesitation. He abandoned his final year of residency, took the only job with flexible hours he could find, and became the man who cleaned the very hospital where he once trained to save lives. The Memorial Hospital staff barely acknowledged Mike as he moved through the corridors with his mop and cart. Doctors brushed past without seeing him. Nurses discussed confidential patient information, as if he were invisible. He had learned to find comfort in this invisibility, collecting fragments of medical knowledge from overheard conversations and medical journals discarded in trash bins. Each night, after Lily fell asleep, he studied by the dim light of a desk lamp, keeping his medical knowledge current through sheer determination. Alexandra Hayes strode through the hospital's executive wing, her heels striking a rhythm of authority against the polished floor. At 38, she commanded respect with her tailored suits and unflinching gaze. As chairwoman of Hayes Pharmaceuticals, she had transformed her father's company into an industry leader through relentless work and brilliant strategy. But success had come at a cost. A bitter divorce 3 years ago had left her with sole custody of Emma and a persistent feeling of inadequacy as a mother. She could negotiate billion-dollar deals, but couldn't seem to bridge the growing distance with her daughter. Emma's rare condition had blindsided Alexandra, shaking her carefully constructed world. For the first time in her career, her wealth and influence couldn't solve a problem. The hospital's top specialists seemed baffled by Emma's worsening symptoms, and Alexandra felt the unfamiliar sting of helplessness as she watched her daughter grow weaker each day. She had demanded the best care, donated state-of-the-art equipment, yet nothing seemed to help. Mike wheeled his cart past the hospital's small library during his lunch break, pausing when he noticed an abandoned medical journal on the table. The article on rare autoimmune responses in adolescents caught his attention, and he became absorbed in the research, scribbling notes on a scrap of paper. He didn't notice Alexandra walking past until her shadow fell across the page. Their eyes met briefly, hers narrowing in curiosity at the janitor reading complex medical literature, his quickly lowering in deference as he tucked the journal away and returned to his cart. The moment lasted only seconds, but something in Alexandra's perception shifted slightly. Later that day, Mike overheard 2 neurologists discussing Emma's case outside her room. Their frustrated voices carried down the empty hallway as they debated treatment options. Mike recognized the symptoms they described from his readings. They aligned with a rare medication interaction he had studied while researching treatments for Lily. He lingered nearby, the urge to speak warring with years of learned invisibility. When the doctors walked away, he glanced through the door's window at the pale teenager whose features reminded him so much of the woman from earlier. Something about the girl's isolation resonated with him, reminding him of Lily's lonely battle. The week passed with Emma's condition deteriorating despite the medical team's efforts. Mike continued his silent observations, noticing patterns in her symptoms that seemed to correlate with her medication schedule. He started taking more detailed notes, drawing on both his medical training and his experience with Lily's condition. The paper with his observations accidentally slipped from his pocket as he cleaned the hallway outside the conference room where Emma's case was being discussed. Alexandra found the crumpled note while leaving the frustrating meeting. The precise medical terminology and insightful observations written in neat handwriting on janitorial notepad paper stopped her cold. She scanned the hospital corridor, but the janitor who had helped Emma during her seizure was nowhere to be seen. For the first time in days, Alexandra felt a flicker of hope amidst her growing desperation. Lily's school called the next morning. She had a fever and needed to be picked up immediately. With no childcare options, Mike had no choice but to bring her to work, setting up a makeshift resting area in the small break room used by the maintenance staff. His supervisor reluctantly agreed after Mike promised to make up the time, but warned him to keep Lily out of sight of the medical staff and patients. The plan worked until Lily, bored and feeling better after her medicine, wandered off while Mike unclogged a drain in the pediatric wing. Emma was sitting alone in the hospital's small garden courtyard when a younger girl with curly hair and bright eyes approached her bench. Most kids in the hospital either stared or avoided her, but this one plopped down beside her with casual confidence. "I'm Lily. My dad works here. I'm not supposed to be walking around, but it's boring in the break room," she announced. "Why are you here?" "I have epilepsy. That means my brain gets confused sometimes and I shake a lot. But I'm really good at math when I'm not shaking." Emma, who had retreated into sullen silence with most adults, found herself responding to Lily's straightforward approach. Their conversation flowed naturally from illness to favorite music to complaints about the hospital food. When Lily mentioned her father was probably looking for her, Emma felt a stab of disappointment at losing her first real connection in weeks. Mike found them together, panic dissolving into relief when he spotted Lily animatedly explaining something to the older girl he recognized as Alexandra Hayes' daughter. He approached cautiously, apologizing for the interruption. "You're the man who helped me during my seizure," Emma said, recognizing him immediately. "Lily says you know everything about epilepsy. Do you know about my condition too?" Before Mike could formulate a response, Alexandra rounded the corner, her expression shifting from surprise to guarded interest at finding the janitor and his daughter with Emma, who looked more animated than she had in weeks. The moment of connection fractured under Alexandra's questioning gaze, and Mike quickly ushered Lily away after apologizing for the disturbance. But not before Alexandra noticed the easy way Emma had spoken to them, a stark contrast to her withdrawal from the medical team's attempts at engagement. The next day, tensions in the hospital reached a breaking point during the weekly case review. The chief neurologist announced they were considering transferring Emma to Mayo Clinic, effectively admitting defeat. The hospital director's thinly veiled concern about losing Hayes Pharmaceutical's support hung in the air as doctors argued over diminishing treatment options. Mike was mopping the hallway outside, the heated voices carrying through the partially open door. "We're missing something fundamental about her reaction to the treatment protocol," one doctor insisted. "The tests show no allergic response," another countered. Mike paused, the words triggering a connection in his mind. He thought of the article he'd read, the pattern of Emma's symptoms, and his own experience with Lily's medication adjustments. The realization crystallized: it wasn't a typical allergic reaction they should be looking for, but a rare metabolic response that mimicked deterioration. The treatment wasn't failing, it was causing a secondary complication that masked as worsening symptoms. Mike stood frozen, mop in hand, as the debate continued inside. Years of professional instinct warred with his current reality. He had promised himself when he took this job that he would never compromise his position by overstepping boundaries. Lily depended on his income, his flexible schedule. Yet a young girl was suffering unnecessarily just beyond that door. The decision made itself when he heard Alexandra's voice rise in controlled desperation. "I don't care about protocols or hospital politics. My daughter is getting worse while you debate. I want solutions, not excuses." Mike set down his mop and stepped into the room. Conversations halted mid-sentence as heads turned toward the unexpected intrusion. He felt the weight of dismissive stares but focused instead on the clinical whiteboard where Emma's treatment plan was outlined. "Excuse me," he said, his voice quieter than intended. "I think you're missing a metabolic interaction between the anticonvulsant and the immunosuppressant." The silence that followed felt physically heavy. The chief neurologist recovered first, his face flushing with indignation. "Who let maintenance staff into this meeting? Please return to your duties. This is a confidential patient discussion." Mike stood his ground, though his heart hammered against his ribs. "The symptoms you're attributing to disease progression match a documented interaction pattern. It's not the disease worsening, it's a treatable complication of the medication combination, and exactly what qualifies a janitor to make this assessment." The neurologist's voice dripped with derision. Mike hesitated, feeling his chance to help slipping away. But before he could retreat, Alexandra's voice cut through the tension. "Let him speak," she said, her gaze intense. "At this point, I'm willing to hear any perspective that might help my daughter." The doctor's objections withered under Alexandra's authority. Mike approached the whiteboard, explaining in precise medical terminology how Emma's symptoms aligned with a rare metabolic response documented in recent literature. He suggested specific tests to confirm his theory and outlined a modified treatment approach that would address both her primary condition and the medication interaction. As he spoke, the atmosphere in the room shifted. Initial skepticism gave way to reluctant consideration as the medical team recognized the sound reasoning behind his analysis. Alexandra watched with growing amazement as this unassuming janitor articulated complex medical concepts with the confidence and precision of a specialist. When he finished, the silence held a different quality, the stunned reassessment of someone they had overlooked. "How do you know all this?" Alexandra finally asked, her voice softer than anyone in the room had ever heard it. Mike met her gaze directly for the first time. "I used to be a medical resident here." Life took a different turn. The hospital director demanded an immediate investigation of Mike's theory. Blood samples were drawn, tests ordered with unprecedented urgency. Alexandra followed Mike into the hallway where he had returned to his abandoned mop, her expression a complex mixture of hope and confusion. "Why are you working as a janitor if you have medical training?" she asked bluntly. Mike considered deflecting, but something in her direct approach deserved honesty. "My daughter developed epilepsy after my wife died. She needed me more than medicine did. This job lets me be there for her." Alexandra's carefully constructed worldview, where ambition and success were the natural priorities, tilted slightly on its axis. Before she could respond, the chief neurologist emerged from the conference room, his earlier condescension replaced by grudging respect. "We're running the tests," he informed Alexandra. "If Collins is right, we could see improvement within days." The next 48 hours transformed the hospital's dynamics. Emma's tests confirmed Mike's theory, and the adjusted treatment protocol showed immediate positive results. Alexandra insisted that Mike be officially consulted on her daughter's case, overriding bureaucratic objections with the simple leverage of her position and funding. The same doctors who had ignored Mike now sought his input, though many struggled to reconcile his janitorial role with his medical insights. Mike continued his maintenance duties while reviewing Emma's charts during breaks. He arranged his schedule to bring Lily after school, recognizing how the girls' friendship benefited them both. Emma had someone who understood chronic illness without pity, while Lily thrived with a big sister figure who shared her interest in science. Alexandra often found herself watching their interactions, seeing a side of her daughter that had been buried beneath illness and her own frequent absences. One evening, as Mike finished his shift, Alexandra invited him to the hospital cafe for coffee. Their conversation began awkwardly. Two people from vastly different worlds struggling to find common ground. But as they discussed Emma's progress, the barriers between CEO and janitor gradually dissolved into the shared territory of parents concerned for their children. Alexandra's carefully maintained facade softened as Mike spoke about finding strength in Lily's resilience rather than his own circumstances. "You could have been a remarkable physician," Alexandra observed. "Don't you regret giving it up?" Mike considered the question, watching Lily and Emma through the cafe window as they shared a book in the garden. There are different ways to heal people. Sometimes being present for one person matters more than being brilliant for many. The statement lingered between them, challenging Alexandra's fundamental assumptions about success and sacrifice. Their conversation was interrupted when both girls suddenly required medical attention. Lily experiencing a small seizure, while Emma showed signs of a potential reaction to her adjusted medication. Mike handled both situations with calm efficiency, his actions demonstrating a seamless blend of medical knowledge and paternal instinct. Alexandra watched him work, realizing she was seeing something remarkable. Not just competence, but a genuine integration of professional skill and personal care that her corporate world rarely valued. When the crisis passed and both girls were stable, she made a decision that surprised even herself. "I want you to present Emma's case at the Hayes Foundation Medical Symposium next month," she announced. "Your insight saved my daughter when conventional approaches failed. Other patients could benefit from this perspective." Mike's immediate refusal was expected. "I'm not a doctor. I don't have credentials. No one would take me seriously." "They'll take you seriously because I'll make sure they do," Alexandra countered. "Sometimes the system needs disruption from someone who sees what everyone else has missed." The Hayes Foundation Symposium represented everything Mike had left behind: professional recognition, academic medicine, a world where his intelligence rather than his janitorial skills defined him. The prospect terrified him almost as much as it tempted him. Lily's needs remained his priority, and stepping back into that spotlight, even temporarily, risked the stability he had built for them. Alexandra sensed his hesitation and took an unprecedented step. She visited their apartment on a Sunday morning. The modest two-bedroom walk-up with its carefully maintained furniture and walls covered in Lily's artwork offered a glimpse into a life built on different values than her own. Mike's embarrassment at the humble surroundings faded as Alexandra accepted Lily's enthusiastic tour and stayed for pancakes, sitting somewhat awkwardly at their small kitchen table. "You've created something remarkable here," she acknowledged, watching the easy rapport between father and daughter. "But you've been hiding your gifts from the world. Emma isn't the only patient who could benefit from your perspective." In the week before the symposium, Mike worked with Alexandra to prepare his presentation while continuing his janitorial duties. Hospital staff who had previously ignored him now acknowledged him with newfound respect. Though some doctors remained skeptical about a maintenance worker addressing a prestigious medical conference, Alexandra arranged for Lily to stay with Emma and her nanny during the event, solving the childcare dilemma that had nearly prevented Mike's participation. The day of the symposium arrived with Mike standing backstage in a borrowed suit that didn't quite fit his frame. The audience of distinguished physicians, researchers, and pharmaceutical executives represented a world he had once aspired to join. Anxiety tightened his chest as Alexandra introduced him, her confident voice establishing his credibility before he spoke a single word. Mike walked to the podium, his hands trembling slightly as he faced the skeptical audience. He began not with medical terminology or academic citations, but with the simple story of a janitor noticing patterns that others had missed. His presentation wove together formal medical knowledge with the practical wisdom gained from years of managing his daughter's condition. He spoke about the gap between theoretical medicine and lived patient experience, advocating for healthcare that recognized the insights of caregivers alongside clinical expertise. Sometimes, the most valuable observations come from those who watch patients live with their conditions, not just treat them, he concluded. "We need medicine that sees people, not just symptoms." The silence following his presentation broke with scattered applause that gradually swelled into genuine acknowledgement. Medical professionals approached him afterward with questions and comments that treated him as a colleague rather than an anomaly. Alexandra watched from the side, satisfaction evident in her usually composed expression. Something had shifted. Not just for Mike, but in the room's understanding of where medical insights could originate. The symposium's success led to unexpected opportunities. The Hayes Foundation established a new research initiative focused on rare pediatric conditions, with emphasis on integrating caregiver observations into treatment protocols. Alexandra offered Mike a position as program consultant, a role that would utilize his medical knowledge while accommodating Lily's needs. The hospital director, recognizing both Mike's value and the potential publicity, proposed a pathway for him to complete his medical training with flexible scheduling and financial support. Mike stood at a crossroads he never expected to reach. After years of defining himself primarily as Lily's father, the prospect of reclaiming his medical identity both exhilarated and terrified him. The decisive moment came when Lily, overhearing his doubts, approached with characteristic directness. "Daddy, you always tell me I shouldn't hide because of my epilepsy," she said, her small face serious. "Maybe you shouldn't hide because of mine." The decision wasn't immediate, but Lily's perspective cleared away the last of Mike's hesitation. With Alexandra's help, he negotiated arrangements that would allow him to complete his medical requirements while maintaining a presence in Lily's daily life. The transition from janitor to medical consultant happened gradually, with Mike working double shifts during the initial phase, cleaning floors in the morning, reviewing research in the afternoon. Some hospital staff, particularly those who had treated him dismissively for years, struggled to adjust to his changing status. Others, who had noticed his quiet competence all along, seemed unsurprised by the evolution. Emma's recovery accelerated under the modified treatment protocol. The pale, withdrawn teenager transformed into an engaged, curious young woman who spent hours in animated conversation with Lily. Alexandra found herself spending more time at the hospital, not just monitoring Emma's progress, but observing the unusual friendship between the girls. The business trips she had once prioritized without question now felt less urgent than witnessing her daughter's return to life. The changing dynamic between Mike and Alexandra didn't escape notice. Hospital gossip speculated about their increasingly frequent meetings, though the reality was less sensational than rumors suggested. They were forging an unexpected alliance, the pharmaceutical executive and the janitor turned consultant, united by concern for their daughters and growing mutual respect. Alexandra found herself valuing Mike's straightforward perspective, so different from the calculated responses of her corporate world. Mike discovered in Alexandra not just a powerful ally but someone who understood the weight of single parenthood, albeit from a very different vantage point. As spring turned to summer, Emma was well enough to be discharged from the hospital. Alexandra faced the unexpected challenge of reintegrating her daughter into their home life, a realm she had navigated primarily through hired help and brief quality time interludes. Mike suggested continuing the girls' friendship might ease the transition, an idea that led to weekend visits and eventually summer activities that brought the four of them together regularly. Alexandra's sprawling Beacon Hill townhouse and Mike's modest apartment became points on a shared map, places where their once separate lives increasingly intersected. The Hayes Foundation's annual fundraising gala provided the first public test of their evolving relationship. Alexandra, as chairwoman, was expected to host with her usual polished performance. Mike attended as a foundation consultant, uncomfortable in the rented tuxedo Alexandra had insisted upon. The social gulf between them seemed momentarily insurmountable as Mike navigated the unfamiliar territory of champagne flutes and donor small talk. When a prominent surgeon made a dismissive remark about the janitor's miraculous transformation, Alexandra overheard from across the room. Her approach was measured, her voice carrying just enough to ensure surrounding conversations paused. Dr. Collins' insights have already improved treatment outcomes for 17 patients beyond Emma, she stated with precision. His perspective is invaluable precisely because he sees what traditional training often overlooks. We're fortunate he's chosen to share his expertise rather than simply continuing his maintenance work in silence. The moment crystallized something for Mike. Alexandra's defense wasn't just professional courtesy but genuine respect. For Alexandra, it marked her public alignment with values she was still learning to articulate, that worth wasn't measured by titles or wealth, that seeing people clearly mattered more than seeing them conventionally. The Hayes-Collins protocol, as Emma's treatment approach became known, gained attention in medical circles over the following months. Requests for consultation arrived from other hospitals, and a prestigious medical journal accepted their co-authored paper. For Mike, who had once hidden his intelligence behind a mop and cart, the recognition was both validating and disorienting. Alexandra guided him through the unfamiliar terrain of professional reinvention, while he helped her navigate the equally challenging landscape of reconnecting with her daughter. As autumn approached, the Lily Emma Center for Pediatric Research moved from concept to reality. Alexandra leveraged her corporate connections to secure funding while Mike developed the center's innovative approach to integrating caregiver observations into clinical research. The facility would occupy a renovated wing of Memorial Hospital. The same corridors Mike had once cleaned now transformed into a space that would embody his vision of medicine. The center's development coincided with Lily starting at a new school, one with better resources for students with epilepsy, made possible by Mike's improved circumstances. The transition highlighted the practical benefits of his changing status, though he remained vigilant against the materialism that Alexandra sometimes took for granted. Their differences in approach led to occasional tensions but ultimately strengthened their partnership as they balanced each other's perspectives. Emma thrived as her health stabilized, developing an interest in patient advocacy inspired by Mike's journey. She began volunteering with younger patients at the hospital, her own experience providing insight into their fears and frustrations. Alexandra watched this evolution with a mixture of pride and wistfulness, recognizing how much of her daughter's growth had occurred outside her influence. The realization prompted her to scale back her corporate responsibilities, delegating more to her executive team to create space for her shifting priorities. The winter holidays arrived with an invitation that surprised them both. Emma and Lily, collaborating with increasing frequency, orchestrated a Christmas Eve gathering at Alexandra's home that deliberately positioned the four of them as a unit. The girls' transparent matchmaking might have been awkward if Mike and Alexandra hadn't already been navigating the ambiguous territory between professional collaboration and personal connection. The evening ended with Mike and Alexandra sitting before the fireplace long after the girls had gone to bed, their conversation drifting from center business to childhood memories to cautious acknowledgement of what might be developing between them. "We come from such different worlds," Mike observed, the class divide that had initially seemed insurmountable now, just one of many factors in a complex equation. "Yet here we are, creating something new together," Alexandra replied, her hand finding his in a gesture that felt simultaneously momentous and natural. The new year brought both progress and challenges. The center's construction faced delays, Emma experienced a minor relapse requiring treatment adjustments, and Mike's schedule stretched to accommodate both his medical studies and consulting work. Through it all, the four of them functioned increasingly as a unit, supporting each other through difficulties and celebrating small victories. Alexandra's corporate board raised eyebrows at her decreased availability, while Mike's former maintenance colleagues regarded his transformation with a mixture of admiration and distance. Spring arrived with a significant milestone. Mike completed the requirements to reinstate his medical credentials, graduating with a cohort of residents nearly 15 years his junior. Alexandra attended the ceremony with Emma and Lily, their presence a testament to how thoroughly their lives had intertwined. The celebration afterward at Mike's apartment featured both champagne, Alexandra's contribution, and homemade cupcakes, Lily's specialty, symbolic of their blended approach to life's moments. The Lily Emma Center for Pediatric Research opened its doors in early summer, almost exactly 1 year after Mike had first intervened in Emma's treatment. The innovative facility incorporated design elements that reflected both Alexandra's executive vision and Mike's patient-centered perspective, state-of-the-art laboratories, alongside comfortable family consultation spaces, cutting-edge technology, complemented by areas designed for children to explain their experiences in their own terms. The opening ceremony brought together hospital administrators, medical researchers, patients, and caregivers in an unprecedented gathering that mirrored the center's integrated approach. Alexandra delivered a polished address about innovation and excellence, while Mike spoke simply about listening to voices traditionally excluded from medical conversations. Together, they cut the ribbon with Emma and Lily at their sides. The girls whose experiences had catalyzed this transformation standing as equal participants in the moment. In the months that followed, Mike transitioned fully from consultant to medical director, while Alexandra restructured her corporate responsibilities to allow for meaningful involvement with the center. Their professional collaboration deepened alongside their personal relationship, each domain informing and enriching the other. The girls, now inseparable friends, despite their age difference, thrived in an environment that validated their experiences and incorporated their perspectives. Autumn brought another change as Mike and Lily moved from their apartment to a small house closer to both the center and Alexandra's home. The decision came after months of careful consideration, with particular attention to Lily's feelings about leaving the only home she remembered since her mother's death. The house maintained the modest scale that Mike valued while providing space for Lily's growing independence and frequent visits from Emma. One Sunday morning in late fall found the four of them gathered in Mike's kitchen, where pancake breakfasts had become a tradition. Alexandra, who had once considered cooking an inefficient use of time better delegated to staff, now participated with surprising enthusiasm. Emma and Lily collaborated on elaborate fruit toppings, their easy interaction a testament to how thoroughly they had bonded. As Mike flipped pancakes with the practiced skill of years, he caught Alexandra watching him with an expression that still amazed him. Warmth without calculation, affection without agenda. "Remember when you wouldn't even look at me in the hallway?" he asked quietly while the girls debated the merits of various syrup-to-butter ratios. Alexandra's smile held a hint of regret for the person she had been. "I was looking at the wrong things back then. Success, status, appearances, none of it mattered when Emma was suffering. And now?" Mike asked, the question encompassing far more than her current priorities. "Now I see what actually matters," she replied, her gaze moving from him to their daughters laughing together at the table. "It was right in front of me all along." The winter months brought both challenges and deepening connections. Emma experienced minor health setbacks that required treatment adjustments, while Lily faced academic pressures as she prepared for middle school. Through it all, the four of them functioned as a supportive unit, their distinct personalities and perspectives creating a resilient whole. Alexandra's corporate efficiency complemented Mike's patient steadiness. Emma's emerging confidence balanced Lily's thoughtful intensity. As Christmas approached, Alexandra surprised them all with an unexpected proposal, not of marriage, but of a shared future nonetheless. The historic brownstone halfway between their current homes would provide space for all four of them while respecting their need for independent domains. The suggestion represented Alexandra's growing understanding that wealth was meaningful primarily as a tool for nurturing what truly mattered. Mike's initial hesitation reflected not reluctance about deepening their relationship but concern about maintaining the values that had sustained him and Lily through difficult years. "We don't need that much space," he pointed out, characteristic pragmatism evident in his tone. "It's not about needing it," Alexandra replied with newfound insight. "It's about creating room for what might grow between all of us." The decision unfolded gradually through family discussions that included both girls as equal participants. By spring, they had begun the process of merging households, with careful attention to preserving meaningful elements from both homes. Lily's artwork and Mike's medical books found places alongside Alexandra's art collection and Emma's growing library of advocacy literature. The transition wasn't seamless. Cultural differences in everything from meal routines to financial assumptions created occasional friction. But each challenge strengthened their commitment to building something that honored all. Their experiences. 1 year after the center's opening, the newly blended family stood together at the ribbon cutting for its expanded research wing. Mike and Alexandra had navigated the complex territory of becoming both professional and personal partners, while Emma and Lily had discovered in each other the sisterhood neither had experienced. The journey from that first moment in the hospital corridor, when an overlooked janitor had helped a collapsing girl while her powerful mother watched in surprise, had transformed all their lives in ways none could have predicted. Outside the center's entrance, a small garden featured 4 chairs arranged in a circle, 2 large, 2 small, a visual testament to the family they had gradually become. Inside, a plaque commemorated the center's founding principle in words that bridged Mike's humble wisdom and Alexandra's executive vision. Healing happens when we truly see each other. Mike reached across the breakfast table, his hand covering Alexandra's in a gesture that had become familiar. The touch carried the weight of their shared journey, from dismissal to respect, from professional alliance to personal commitment. The path forward remained uncharted, but the foundation they had built together promised something none of them had fully possessed before. A sense of belonging that transcended titles, backgrounds, and expectations. In the end, it wasn't about who rescued whom, but how they had all found their way to something whole and healing through the simple recognition of each other's true worth. Their story, of a janitor who helped a girl collapse at the hospital and then discovered who she really was, had become something far richer. A testament to seeing beyond surfaces, to finding value in unexpected places, and to building connections that transcended the artificial boundaries of status and circumstance. The morning light filtered through windows that framed their joined lives, not a fairy tale ending but a thoughtful beginning. 4 people who might never have truly seen each other, had circumstance not stripped away pretense and privilege. Their newly shared home wasn't a mansion or a cottage, but something uniquely theirs, a place where a former janitor and a pharmaceutical executive could build a life together, where 2 girls with different challenges could support each other's growth. Where healing extended beyond physical symptoms to encompass the deeper wounds of isolation and misunderstanding. As they moved through their day, Lily solving math problems at the kitchen counter, Emma preparing for a patient advocacy speech, Mike reviewing research protocols, Alexandra restructuring a foundation grant, the boundaries that once separated their worlds continued to dissolve. What remained was the essential truth that had drawn them together. That worth isn't measured by titles or possessions, but by the capacity to see and be seen, to recognize value where others might overlook it, and to build something meaningful from the most unexpected beginnings.